so listening, pay attention.
You're looking for capitals?
Okay, now we need the ratio of boys 2 to girls 1, so 2 to 1. Not allowed to make them sit down. We've got to keep the ratio 2 to 1. So what have we got to do?
Sue Hills is a former university lecturer
Very good. Yep. So
who
here we
became
have-
bored with undergraduates
Now, girls.
and wanted a greater challenge.
I've got 5 here. I have 2, and I still need the ratio to be 2 to 1. How are we going to do it now? Emily?
You need half.
You need half, don't you? Any volunteers to be halved?
Sue's loved her 3 years at Moulton School in Northamptonshire, but finds the lower sets like 9x stressful, especially when moving from one part of a lesson to another.
Right. You listen up now. I'm waiting.
She's asked teaching consultant John Bayley to advise her.
To get the proportion.
John feels it might be useful to include Donna, the teaching assistant, in the discussion.
We're coming up to a transition, and I want you to listen to the words you use and what happens to your voice when you're giving that transition.
Waiting. If you've got your back to me, can you just turn round so I can see you listening, please? Can you look at the board? Check you got them the right ones. Easiest. Yeah, it's going up, isn't it? Can we have quiet? Panicking.
Yeah, the voice is rising and you're asking questions.
Easiest. Can we have quiet?
Can we have quiet?
Can we have you all listening?
Can we have you all listening?
Waiting. Right, we started off with the 2 to 3. Easiest to choose this ratio first.
By the way, then you go on to do some excellent work, but they're not quite there, are they? And you know, you were saying when they get onto the main part, that they never quite recover.
No. You've got me at the back sort of going, shh. It's always a bit distracting as well, isn't it?
But helpful, because when you're not there, it takes a lot longer. Can you have your quiet? Facing the front. Leanne, turn yourself round, please.
I'm just packing the cards away.
We're going to change a ratio. We're going to change a ratio to a proportion.
These transitions are driving you nuts, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I'll bet on bad days, and I'll bet if there aren't people there with cameras, a transition can be a nightmare.
Yep.
And also the transitions are kind of dividing you, aren't they? Because when you're doing individual work or doing group work with the children, you could probably coordinate your activities even more. But when it comes to the transitions, they're not easy, and you don't have a jointly worked out routine. I like the idea of teaching some definite routines to children in that class. Routine 1 might be a signal for attention and what our expectations are during it. Routine 2 is probably to do with sound levels.
Yeah.
What partner voice is and what working silence is.
But how do I get across to them? If they won't listen to me, how do I say, right, this is what I want you to do to listen to me?
Well, I think it's to do with the language of command. You know this, I'm waiting for silence, waiting, and all that. No, you're not waiting for silence. The signal for attention has been given.
Yeah, everyone should be.
I think this is to do with the language of assertiveness, because it means me sitting down and saying, from now on, my signal for attention is, let's say it's my 3 taps. I'll give 3 taps when I want attention.
And what I want to know is the proportion of boys that you all have. So, I've not really got everybody quiet. Can we all be quiet, please?
You come across that idea of behavioural narration. You don't just stand there saying, well done, Mimi's picked her pen up, or well done, Bobby's. You say, I'm looking for people with their pens down, silent, facing this way. Adam's put his pen down, he's facing me. Mimi's put her pen down, she's facing me. Over in the corner I can see two people putting their pens away.
So you start off by saying what you want, and then
you start off by saying what you want, and then
reinforcing it as it goes through the class.
Yeah, and it's called behavioural narration, and it means that instead of standing there at the front of the room looking fed up and saying, I'm waiting, you're saying, Bob's got his pen down, Alice has got his pen down.
So they're getting rewarded if they've done the right thing.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
you wouldn't say, Ollie's stood up and he's hurling a missile across the room. You'd ignore that.
No, you wouldn't necessarily ignore it, but you might say, you might say, at the moment, Ollie is not settling down. And for my money, there are 3 sound levels in a room. There's listening silence, active listening silence, and then there's partner voice. And the key about partner voice is it's the person sitting next to you can hear what you're saying, but no one else in the room can hear what you're saying.
Right.
And then there's a 3rd level of voice, which I would call table voice. It's when you've got people doing group work and there's a kind of level in the room. And the idea is this, that you can't expect children to know it without practicing it. This is this whole assertive discipline idea of teaching a curriculum of behaviour. What have we got? We've got coming into the room, we've got settling at the desk, we've got levels of noise, we've got signal for attention, we've got how to behave during transitions. And the job is to find some way of creating a space in which you can teach those things.
Well done, you've written your objective. Good, you've done yours. Ollie?
Next day, 9X is treated to a crash course on how to pay attention.
Right, I'm going to have a new signal. The signal is going to be this. Not very loud, but you have to listen for that. When I give that signal, you stop doing what you're doing, you look at me, and you listen, OK? We're going to practice that. So what I want you to do, I want you to talk to the person next to you for a minute or so. Wait a moment. I want you to talk about what you learned in your science lesson, OK? Okay. We're all looking at me. We've got Emily looking at me, Ben looking at me, Leanne's turned around now and is looking at me. Ben just needs to keep his attention on me, not talking. That's very good.
I think this is pretty good. Just a behavioural point is you're using language that you're unfamiliar with. Ben's looking at me. And one of the things that'll happen is it feels awkward for a while until you get it into your repertoire.
Right.
What would you give that exercise points out of 10? And be brutally frank. I'm not fishing for.
In terms of helpfulness, you mean? Oh, I think it's going to be an 8 or a 9. The problem's going to be if I can keep doing it. How many have you got? 4. Good. Right, I think we need to stop this now, so let me get my attention signal. Good. Everybody's looking at me now.
How far would you and Donna be able to work together on it?
Well, I thought she was actually being quite useful when I was asking for the signal for silence, and she was going round, and anyone who wasn't.
Yes, she certainly was. But I think that the pair of you can unleash terrific power. It shouldn't just be you standing at the front of the room saying, tap, 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 here's our signal for attention, now on we go with it, and just getting 80% or 90% of your way. It should be you saying, this is how we're working in this classroom now, and then the pair of you, when you're doing subsequent work around the room, say, by the way, Horatio, there's something you need to understand.
Yeah.
Things are a bit different around here, and I really mean it when I'm talking about needing attention.
Finally, on the following day, John's back to see if Sue can show 9X, once and for all, who's boss.
The formula for the area of a triangle Can anybody remember what it was? Marissa, looking at the board. Leanne, looking at the board.
I am looking at the board. That white thing over there.
The area is the space in the middle. It's always the space in the middle. Leanne, here.
Sorry, that was my fault.
Bring your book, sit here.
Oh, I've only done nothing. Sorry, Anne.
Right. Stop. Look this way and listen.
Laurie, face the front. Put your feet front.
Right hand to the table, Laurie.
What you need to do to find the area of this triangle, you use the formula, which is the base times the height divided by 2 meters squared. Okay, right, you carry on with the exercise, please. Using that, I do understand that. So 3 times 3. I want to talk to you about when I make this attention signal, Paisley. What does it mean?
Look, stop what you're doing and look towards you.
Yeah. What else should you do?
Look your pants down. Yeah.
And should you be talking?
No.
No. It's not fair on the other pupils in the class. It's not fair on you.
But it's not always Paisley.
It's not always Paisley, and I will be having this conversation with other people in the class, okay? When I bang the key and I want you to be quiet. Why am I doing that, do you think?
She tells me quiet.
Yeah, why do you think I want you to be quiet?
Because you won't be able to know about work.
Yeah. So even if you're quiet, which you very often are, stewing in your book, and it's not going to help you, is it? You have got to be watching what I'm doing and you've got to be listening. Okay? Yeah? Good? Okay. That row near the door may go. And this row may go. Phew.
Do you know, I'd written down in my notes, why doesn't someone close in on the air?
Yeah.
And then you went and did it.
And it worked quite well.
And it worked. I mean, she sulked for a bit, but
She didn't do any work at all,
no,
to be honest. But
she was just beginning to get over it
Yeah.
towards the end of the lesson.
Yeah.
And okay, she wasn't ready to respond just then, but you got in there and you showed you showed that you meant business.
I quite like going around telling them that it was not going to be any more of this, and that they were going to behave properly, and that if they didn't, I would be calling in their parents. And a lot of them was, but I'm not naughty. I know always, but they don't realise that it's a collective thing.
I'd invest a bit of time with you and Donna, just figuring out, making sure you're using the same scripts and saying the same things to them. But please don't think it's a 100% issue. I think it's a 10% issue, because you're teaching some lovely stuff.
Right.
And what you just want to make sure is that you've got those transitions nailed down a bit. That just every now and then, when you need to let the beast out with some child, you do it. You sit there and say, this can't go on.
I just felt so much better about it than, being sort of really wishy-washy. No, can everybody sit down, please? Why am I saying that? Yeah. Sit down! That's what I want you to do. And it's just, I think it just needs someone to kick me and say, go on, do it, you can do it.